I'm Alexandra Korey, and I am with a company called Cedecs-TCBL that is a partner in the Fabrix project. And this is, as you know, part of the webinar series where we want to give SMEs answers to some of the questions and the needs that you've expressed in the past. So getting seen, and why is it called that? Well, when we asked you what you're looking for from the Fabrix project, one of the things that you asked for was visibility. Now, whether that's visibility within a network, so interested in having more visibility in your city or amongst other people working in your same field, or if it's about visibility in a larger sense, and that's how I'm going to take that, how I'm going to interpret it as their social media. That's what we're going to talk about today. And I know this is a very difficult thing for a lot of people, especially if you're a young company, you're starting out and you're trying to reach new publics, whether those are, stakeholders or other people to collaborate with, but more likely you're trying to reach final clients. You're trying to do some B2C communication. And we all know that it just seems like all the social networks are working against us. So today is a little bit about that and what we can do to get over that problem. And I'm not going to give you any magic answers. So that's sort of the first caveat that I have to say, that one, because social media changes every day. And it really is working against us. It only wants your money. And so as hard as you may work on it, sometimes it's really, really hard to break through. But the good news is that there are some people who do break through. And I think that one of the keys to doing that is to understand the audience and to understand the logic of what they're doing there and what they want from you. So that's basically what today is going to be about. So the first thing to look at, and I know I know who's on social media out of a project, SMEs. So, and I've looked at least your Instagrams, not always LinkedIn, because I know that's used in a different way. So I've kind of taken a look at where you're at, and I know that there's amongst you a series of different levels. So I hope that this is information that is relevant to you. I will go through this formal part relatively quickly. But so just to go over the key social channels and what we have and how many users we have. So Instagram has a lot of users aged 18 to 34. It doesn't mean that my mother's not on Instagram and she's 78, but their majority of visitors or users is in this age bracket and has that number of European users. This is primarily for visual discovery and aesthetic storytelling. So this is where, you share photos and stuff. I'm sure you know that. LinkedIn has fantastic B2B value. It's where you might, celebrate various successes with the company. It's where you're going to make wholesale connections, find opportunities like Fabrix funding or other funding and collaboration opportunities. TikTok, I'd be curious to know how many of you are comfortable using TikTok or actually on this as a brand. Half of Gen Z use TikTok as a search engine instead of searching the way that we old people do on Google. So interesting for that reason. It's got very high engagement and discovery, where basically how many followers you have on that channel doesn't necessarily influence how many people actually see your content. So it's interesting from that point of view, but it has a kind of whole other vibe, as this latest generation would say. Facebook has the mature market. So this is where there's that key 25 to 54 demographic, generally has higher spending power. And of course, it's got the powerful engine of meta ads behind it, which of course you're also seeing in Instagram. And there are things like Facebook groups, where if you create it or are involved in a group, if that's relevant to your product, there can be community engagement there. Something to note about Facebook, it's more than any other social media. The way that it's used and the number of people using it differs widely by country. Just between Greece and Netherlands, you can see the statistic here. Facebook in Greece is way stronger than it is in the Netherlands. And I've seen this also when we're working on some other projects, that the Greek users are primarily interested in interacting on Facebook. So it's something to consider also, is, look into what works best for your country. YouTube used to be, kind of just where you would upload your videos just to keep them somewhere. But now there's the vertical videos called Shorts on YouTube, and people are browsing those just like they browse on TikTok. Consider that every single phone that's sold has the YouTube app on it. So YouTube market saturation is like 100%, something like 98%. But just because some of the phones, I don't know, aren't smart. But so it really does have a very huge reported audience. It is really good for product discovery, for instructions, for information, and certainly it is key in Google search, especially. So when people are looking for information, like how do you do something, how do you make something, that's a place that you're going to find that kind of information. So then the big question is, okay, Alex, these are these social channels. Where should I be as a business and as a sustainable fashion business? So don't think that you have to cover every single one of these social medias, but use the one that comes first most naturally to you, and then most naturally to the people that you think your public is, or the people that you're targeting. So generally, I tend to gravitate towards Instagram myself, and I think that that's probably the main channel for most of you. Having a presence on LinkedIn, I think, is important to validate yourself and to be able to talk about some of the more important themes in sustainable fashion. So it's a good place to be. TikTok is a great place to do research. It might not be where you want to post, especially as it has its kind of own a little bit messy aesthetic. So it might be somewhere that you go to see what other people are doing, to get ideas to bring over to the more established, say, channel like Instagram. But indeed, so, think about that and based on what you think you can handle, and don't try to do more because you already have enough to do. The bigger question here is, why should we bother doing any of this? I know most of you are on social media, and probably you'll continue to be so. You probably want to grow, and you probably want people to discover your brand. I consider social media, and especially Instagram, to be where you can post a more dynamic, detailed, and less polished version of the information that you have on your website. And it's also a way to be more present and up to date in people's minds than the website, which you have to actively go to. So let's just say you're a fashion brand, you have a website, you have your collection. Your collection is updated twice a year, maybe even less if you're, really being season free or gender free. Where are you going to be able to talk more about that, give more details? Because in an e-commerce, you're not going to give all the details of how something's made, or the background behind it, or the ideas, or something about yourself. So I think that social media is useful for this. And it's also, of course, a way where people can find you, because if you're not in stores, if you're a startup, or if you're an online only product, this really is the only way I can really think of to expand your client base. Of course, there's other things you should be doing, like in-person events, networking, pop-up stores. But certainly, I hope that you understand that having a social media presence is a way to validate your brand. And people will look at that. If they find your website in some other way, they will want to sort of look at your social media to see that you're alive and doing interesting things, and also keep in touch with you over time. So I do recommend being on it. Now, in this presentation, we're going to talk about sharing. Why are we going to talk about sharing? So everyone goes, oh, I have only 500 followers or 2,000 followers or whatever the number is, and I can't grow. Nobody sees my post. The algorithm hates me. I personally feel this all the time. So if you feel this, it's okay. It's probably true. But besides that, the fact is that social media is social. It is made of people. People come onto this thing and they interact with each other. So are you being yourself? or at least are you being the vision of yourself that you'd like to be and project? Because people will want to interact with real people. The people who are your public, those 500 followers, even if they're just a small number, that's going to be your best ambassador. So you need to engage them. Will they engage with your content? Are you doing something that they're going to want to engage with? And the reason we want to have those people engaged from an algorithmic point of view is that the algorithm it registers different kinds of engagement. And the same is for LinkedIn and TikTok and Instagram and Facebook, is likes, shares, and saves are all counted as engagement. And comments, okay? Likes, shares, comments, and shares. Sorry, I'm just going to say this again. Likes, comments, shares, and saves are all kinds of engagement on a post. Each of these is weighed differently. So the Instagram algorithm considers that if people are sharing your content, it's really relevant. If people are saving it, it's providing information that people want. And so it's going to push it up in the algorithm. So if your 500 followers relate to your post, they're going to share it, they're going to save it, they're going to watch it again. And all of these things are keying off the algorithm to say, this person has done something of value. And so we're going to show it to more people. It becomes discovered by new publics who have similar interests. And that essentially is our goal. So we're going to look at what's called the psychology of sharing. It's a New York Times group study, and it's from a while ago. Okay, it's 2011, but the psychology, the concept behind this is perfectly valid still, and I think actually even more so now than it was when social media was less saturated. The study comes from the news group when it was starting to sort of look at online news and what they could do to ensure that they would continue their business. But it's relevant now to social media, as you'll see. So this comes from a friend of mine who works in an American strategic company. She says that great content for social media isn't just about the message or the call to action, but it's about what the audience wants to be seen with to validate their sense of self. So let's look at this. And as I'm showing you this screen, think about what would motivate you, or what does motivate you to share or to interact with posts when you say you're scrolling through your Instagram feed in your spare time. Sometimes you go, oh, wow, that's a great post, I want to share it. Well, why are you sharing it? Well, the first thing is that you are trying to bring values to others. So from your account, you're showing that you want to give people information or expertise, or maybe you just share something that's funny, a funny cat video, because you want to amuse your people in your lives or your followers. So one is to bring value to others. The second is to define your personal identity. I share content about sustainable fashion, about sustainable travel, because I have a personal brand where these are important factors. So people are sharing content that's relevant to who they are, because they want to show that's who they are. The third is to grow relationships. So if I'm sharing stuff from a certain account, they may be seeing it, they'll see my comments, and create real connections, remembering that this thing about social media is actually humans. One way to have relationships and sort of to increase your engagement on a profile is to engage actually with other profiles. Not in a spammy kind of way, though, like in a natural human way. Self-fulfillment being number 4. You want to share because you feel involved in that world, and you want people to also recognize you're a place to go to for finding great content. So when a person shares your video where you're demonstrating a particularly interesting new product that aligns with their values, those people feel like they're going to get credit from others. They'll be like, oh yeah, Angela, great video that you shared about sustainable fashion. And then finally, the support for causes and brands, whether it's a nonprofit sharing information or issues that they are supporting, or whether it's because you're explaining a product that aligns with those values, they're going to be supporting you by sharing. So these are factors to consider when we think about a need to shift from look at our product, this is me, this is it, it's for sale, buy now, to look at what this product says about your values. So this is relevant to transparency. Now, in recent reports from the European Commission and from the McKinsey State of Fashion, European consumers are increasingly skeptical of sustainability marketing. So they don't like terms like eco-friendly or sustainable. So we kind of want to avoid those things. So one thing I want to ask you, of course, I've asked you to turn off your screen so I can't see you, but we'll talk about this in our conversation later, is do you make sustainability a driver in your communication? If you do, then I want to look at a few things that you can do to be transparent about your products on social media. If you don't use these words in your communication, and that is a choice that I know a lot of people are making because of this way that people are becoming more skeptical, and because not, sustainability maybe for you is not the main driver of your product, but you want the product to stand on its own. You may, however, be distinguishing yourself with aspects of being slow fashion. You're still a small brand. So the tips that I'm thinking of are ways to distinguish yourself from those big brands, because otherwise you're just making another fashion product. And what we want to do is we want to communicate to people that this isn't just your average fashion product, but there's something different behind it. There's a sustainable business model, or it's local, or it's made from natural fibers, or it's influenced by Greek heritage. All of these things are things that make you not H&M. So that is going to resonate with your public. As a small and sustainable producer, some of the things that you can do are as follows. So number one, be specific. You probably already do this, but just in case, skip the descriptors like green or conscious or sustainable and say exactly what it is. It's from a 100% dead stock linen sourced in Italy, if I'm Italian, which I am at this time. Or, we don't overproduce, we make it just for you when you order it. So specify what makes it align with those values. A key thing to do, and I'm not seeing a lot of you do it, some of you do, but people are interested in seeing how things are made. So because you are making it somewhere that you can be proud of, because you're making stuff in Athens, in Rotterdam, in a city, in a place that doesn't exploit workers, then show that. Show short form video reels or carousel text with text that you can explain, to show your factory, to show knitting mills, to show your partners, to show textile sorting, or what if you're upcycling, what the material looked like before. So, the t-shirt turned into the whatever, something else that you're making with it, and make basically your product more human by showing yourself, because number one thing that people want to know about is you, your artisans, or a repair process. Make it human. If you are partnering with other people, and this is a great thing to do, I would generally skip the influencers or skip the general lifestyle influencers, but look at people who are really aligned with your product through their value and through their style. Those people may be textile educators or slow fashion advocates. I've seen a few of you do collaborative posts with local press or with other associations working together, and you will have seen that from an Instagram point of view, when you do a collaborative post, you tend to reach a higher number of people. So it's a great thing to do. And that kind of partnership is something that I would encourage you to seek out. But find the right ones. Don't just kind of work with whoever. And then remember that you have, at least on Instagram, the possibility to use like a link in bio tool, so you can connect that to your digital product passport if you learned about that in the previous webinar, or any way to deeper traceable information that connects to transparency mandates that are coming into play. So connected to that, this is a bit of a trend, but I wanted to look at what you can do specifically on Instagram. I tend to think about Instagram for these things, to prioritize the creator behind the craft. So essentially, again, what's making you different from a big company? I think that what makes you different is your face. It's your voice. It's your skills. It's exactly what you're doing. So this will depend on your aesthetic. And some of you have a very clean, fashion-related profile. So you have to think about, if you wish to implement this kind of strategy, I would encourage you to think about how you could do this within your aesthetic. I'm not saying that you should immediately do something quick and dirty. I don't think that's, as mature adults, maybe not going to be our aesthetic, but you can do some very nice layouts for carousel posts on Canva. I use Canva a lot, and I do recommend it. I recommend not picking the top suggested templates that they offer, but sort of get in there and make it your own. Use your brand colors, choose a specific font type, size, and layout that matches your aesthetic, matches your brand, and make it your own. So customize it before applying it to galleries. But people are quite interested in actually galleries that have a bit more information on them than the single post these days. Within this, you might show some real life footage, like I was saying, like how you make things, how you test products, how you produce small batches. And if you offer a service, like if you have a repair service, you can show how you do it, which, as I say, validates your skill, it matches their values. But it's also, if you're showing how you can repair something, you are doing a kind of tutorial, which won't take away from your service. What it'll do is they'll give people the idea that, you can do that, you can offer it as a service, or they might try to do it themselves, and that's going to be useful to them. And so they would be engaging with that. Searching through the content created by some of our SMEs. I noticed this post from Three Quarters, and they do this quite a lot, is that they show their founder working with, they make accessories from promotional posters printed on a kind of plastically fabric that is very hard to recycle. So they're upcycling stuff from that and making some really original pieces. So they often show the original material from which their products are made. And this post was, from what I can tell, numerically a very successful one, in part because they're collaborating it with other accounts. And because also the founder is physically present in there and they're showing their source material. And I think it's a good way to sort of story tell about what you do, what you're making. You may have noticed that posts these days tend to have these viral hooks, and that a lot of accounts that talk about Instagram content highly recommend that you use viral hooks. Now, this may not be for everybody, but I did spend a little time looking at what hooks grabbed my mind and what you might be able to use if you wanted to try to do this kind of thing. Again, this always needs to be within your own aesthetic and within your own reality in a way that you feel comfortable with communicating. But sometimes just saying something in a straightforward way and in the text of a video or in the text of a photo is not going to be sufficient to grab people's attention. You really need to get them in that microsecond as they're scrolling. And so one of the proven ways is to come up with a hook, and some of the sort of approaches you can use would be this one. So surprise or contrast, something like this best-selling shirt was never intended to be a shirt. And I think, okay, that's interesting. What was it supposed to be? Fine. This one here that I have a screenshot of, I messed up when making this dress. I want to know what she messed up about. Then she shows that she put like a tie in the wrong place, and it actually looks better than where she intended to do it. And so in the end, you're promoting the product in a positive manner. Impressive facts is another one. So, people might not think about the time, the number of iterations that go into making a product. And that shows, your human nature. It shows how much research goes into what you do. So something like it took our team 70 hours and over 8 versions to design this dress. Another hook that these days is very important is to speak directly to the identity of your public. So who is it for? For all the women who feel bloated at least once a month. So you offer adjustable pants. Don't just say, these are adjustable pants, or this is our best selling adjustable pants, but we made these adjustable pants for all of the women who. And then another idea is to give people an insider information. And you can do this again by saying it directly, or you can use one of these kind of hook sentences like, the part of my process nobody ever sees is, which may sort of inspire some curiosity. So this is me earlier today looking on Instagram to see what grabbed my attention. And some examples of this. I'm better than AI because I can make things for hours on end without drinking a drop of water. And all of these kind of fun ways. And again, the last one on the right, born to dress like this. This is not big. It's not green. It's not trying to be funny, but it's, I think, a classy way to do that. If you have a classy product, if you have something that's kind of out there, you can use humor. You can do your best to, again, like this AI one, to contrast yourself with fast fashion or with any other kind of trending terms like AI, and then the POV that's been in style for a while, the point of view, that really has a lot of options and is still used by a lot of people. So this is probably the most time sensitive part of today's presentation. I can't say that 3 months from now or 6 months ago, this is going to be the same, but I can say that it's been like this for a while. So it's probably here to stick. And as people's attention spans are extremely short, and I hope I'm not losing yours, this for now is what's working on Instagram and on TikTok. Now, you may be a team of 1 or you may be a team of 2 or 3, but you have a million tasks. We all do. So a couple of ideas about making content is, the first of all is to just never make your content by like 1 post at a time, but think about batches. So how quickly can you make a whole bunch of things? Think in terms of series. So can I do a whole bunch of posts showing one specific detail, for example, like the choice of threads that we use, but also content can be repurposed. So some people talk about, if you have something that was really successful, you can make a slight change to it and then post it again. Personally, I don't love that, but apparently it works. But I do like the idea of reformatting. So say you do a reel with something just really short and snappy, and that does well. A nice idea is to sort of unpack it a little bit further by doing a carousel post, so maybe even up to 8 slides, and to use a little bit of text or images that are maybe more that explain things a little bit better, because in a reel you can talk a lot less and provide less information than you can in the carousel format. They say that you should apply an 80-20 rule. So the idea is that you should provide things that are useful and educational, and 20% promotion. This is a little bit challenging, probably, especially if you primarily the material that you have or that you're used to making is the fashion shots for your website. It's a little bit hard to think about, what kind of post can I do that would be useful to people? But that would be my number one challenge to you today, is think about how you can bridge your product to their values, number one, or just something that they really need, so that you become a resource that's helpful to people. So say you sell organic cotton shirts, you could post a video of how to remove stains from organic cotton shirts so that it lasts forever. And maybe to do that, you write a hook that says, want to make, we know you want to make your organic cotton shirt last forever. Something that's probably not the best hook in the world, but you get hopefully what I am thinking about. And the other thing is that, with time being limited, we often turn to AI. And I would say that while some people are saying, oh, just go to AI and it'll spit out like a whole content plan for you, it's true, it does a pretty good job. I think it can help you brainstorm ideas. Remember to be you. So AI is not you. B, it can look at what other people are doing, but you don't want to copy what other people are doing. In the same way that you don't copy them when you're making your collections, your social media should provide something interesting and original, and reflect you and your values. So I would say AI can be helpful to brainstorm. You can give it examples of stuff that you like, stuff that you have done, and a series of, say, values to follow. And it can help you come up with content. And it does, frankly, a faster job than I could do as a human with 15 years of agency experience. However, I really don't recommend using AI to write your content, and especially not to generate imagery, unless you're really, really, really good at it and using a very heavy paid system and you can make AI that doesn't look like AI. I think we're already quite sick of the generic imagery that comes from that. So I would avoid that as much as possible. So now, with these questions up on the screen, it's time to move to our discussion.